The subjunctive is probably one of the hardest things to get your head around. I know it's definitely caused me some headaches over the years. This is because it's not really something that we use in modern English. It comes across as very formal now. We use it in set phrases such as if I were you. But to be honest, in English now, we phrase things in a different way to avoid using it. But in Portuguese, it's very much alive and kicking, so you need to learn when to use it. In these difficult grammatical situations, I like to rely on things like music, or memorable quotes from memorable TV shows or movies that are going to help me remember when to use it. So to teach you the basics of when to use the subjunctive today, I'm going to have the help of my favourite Disney princesses. We're going to see how they use the subjunctive in some iconic Disney moments, so hopefully it will help these rules stick in your head. So if you're excited to learn this today, you know what to do, give me a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, seja bem-vindo. My name is Liz and I'm a Portuguese teacher based in Lisbon, and I help expats get confident and conversational in European Portuguese. So if you want a free lesson with me every single week, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to get notified every time I upload something new. So let's dive in. The mnemonic that we need to help us remember when to use the subjunctive is weird. Now this is something that I was taught at university and something that is featured in this book, my go-to grammar book, which will be linked in the description. And what weird stands for is wishes, emotions, imperative, requests, and doubt. This isn't a comprehensive list, of course, it's much more complicated than that, but this is a really good starting point to understand when to use it. Because the thing about the subjunctive is, it's all about when you're not sure if things are going to happen. There is a level of uncertainty. So for example, just because you tell somebody to do something or that you hope it's going to happen doesn't mean it actually will, and that is what brings us to using the subjunctive. So the first Disney princess that is going to help us out with the W for wishes is Mulan. Now, in the amazing scene, I'll Make a Man Out of You, when she is so worried that they are going to discover that she is a girl, she says, "Espero que não me descubra." I hope that he doesn't discover me. Alright, so espero que is exactly what I'm talking about here, wishing, hoping. So whenever you see espero que in a sentence, you know that you need to take the verb in that sentence, in this case descobrir, and make that the subjunctive. It's one of my favourite Disney songs of all time. I'll link the Portuguese version in the description. You're welcome. So next up, it's emotions. This is a tricky one to find an example of, but it's things like I'm sorry that, or I'm afraid that. In this instance, I chose Nala from The Lion King when she says, "It's good that." So this happens during a very intense scene when Nala's trying to convince Simba to come back and claim his place as king, and he says to her, "You're starting to sound like my father. Começas a parecer-te como meu pai." And she says, "Ótimo, que de nós se pareça." So she's expressing her emotions here, saying it's good that one of them is taking charge. So the verb parecer in that sentence becomes pareça, the subjunctive. The next one is probably the easiest to remember. When we give commands, we use a tense called the imperative tense, and we borrow the verb formations of the subjunctive tense. Again, it's not as simple as that, it depends on who you are talking to, but let's take a look at a Disney princess example to help us remember this one, the use of imperative. So in the final scenes of Beauty and the Beast, when the Beast is lying on the floor, dying, and Belle is just clutching his chest, oh, the drama. She says to him, "Por favor, não me deixes." So that is, please don't leave me. So don't leave me is a command, it's the imperative, and in this instance we would borrow from the subjunctive to make that phrase. So the verb deixar becomes deixes to be the subjunctive. Is this making sense? Give me a yes in the comments if this is helping, and if you have any other tips of how to remember when to use the subjunctive. I know that memorable phrases for me is what really works really well. If you have other ideas, I would love to hear them. And if you need more help with intermediate grammar like this, then make sure you stay tuned to the end because I have something exciting to share. So next up we have requests. When you ask someone to do something, there's no guarantee that they will, so that puts us in the territory of the subjunctive. So to help us remember this one, we have Princess Anna of Arendelle from, of course, Frozen. And at this point in the film, she is demanding that Kristoff take her to help her find her sister. So she says, "Quero que me leves ao topo da montanha do norte." Now, the more complicated explanation of when you should use the subjunctive is when the subject changes in a phrase. And this is a really, really good example of that, because she says, "I want you to take me." So you can see she starts the sentence off and she's the subject talking about herself, but then it moves to him, what she wants him to do. So that is another sure sign that we need to use the subjunctive. Finally, we have my favourite, Princess Jasmine serving her dad some sass when he is insisting that she marry a prince because she is a princess. So her response to that is what's going to help us explain the doubt part of the mnemonic, the D, okay? She says, "Talvez já não queira ser uma princesa." Maybe I no longer want to be a princess. Now this word, talvez, meaning maybe, is the thing that is causing the doubt in this sentence. And this word, talvez, has to stick in your mind as a red flag of when you should use the subjunctive, because it always needs it. So I hope that that helped some of you intermediate learners out there get a better grip of when you need to use that pesky tense, the subjunctive. If you need more help with intermediate grammar like this, then I'm opening the waiting list for my intermediate course, which is coming this spring. So if you already know how to hold basic conversations, you know how to speak in the past, present and future, but you really need some guidance to perfect these much more difficult grammar rules, then this is the one for you. So I hope that I see lots of you there, and I will be back this time next week with more tips and tutorials to level up your European Portuguese. Obrigada por assistirem e até à próxima. Ciao for now.